retirement accounts and just establish some basic rules here. That number one, caring about your financial stability is not something that is cosmetic or unnecessary. Well, this is actually a part of your deen. You are responsible for your financial stability, because the Prophet ﷺ said, "Al-yadu al-ulya khayrun min al-yad al-sufla." The upper hand is better than the lower hand. Of course, the upper hand is the hand of the one who is financially stable, who is able to give from the extra wealth that he or she has to other people, while the one with the lower hand is the one who is waiting for the sadaqah and the donation from other people. So being the one with the upper hand is way better than being with the one with the lower hand. In the other hadith, he was advising one of the Sahaba by saying, إنك أن تذر ورثتك أغنياء خير من أن تذرهم عالة يتكففون الناس. Leaving your family members wealthy or financially well established is way better than leaving them poor or needy, begging people. يتكففون الناس. So again, taking care of your finance during your lifetime and planning for your finance and making sure that you leave behind something for your family members is actually a part of your deen. The challenge that we face here in this society and other societies as well is that when it comes to retirement accounts, most probably you cannot find retirement account that is custom designed in the way that you want. That's something 100% halal. In the real life, there is nothing called 100% halal investment in the stock market. Retirement accounts, whether they are employer-based retirement accounts or individual retirement accounts, they are connected somehow with the stock market. And at the end of the day, you have to make a decision. You have certain industries and certain stocks and certain financial instruments where you need to pick and choose whatever you think that suits your need the most, and that is in a compliance with your principles and your ethics and your values. Now, the fact that you cannot find 100% Sharia compliant investment in the stock market does not mean that you can or you should even waive or just drop the 401k or the retirement account. This is absolutely unacceptable decision. I came across some brothers and sisters, mashallah, who do not have 401k, or they deny it completely because they are not 100% sure that their investment is a Sharia compliant one. Well, you do not have to make sure. You don't have to make sure that your investment is 100% Sharia compliant. If you can, go for it. But if it is close to impossible, which is the case, then just make sure that your investment in the stock market is as Sharia compliant as possible. According to the Quran itself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Be conscious to your Lord as much as you can. Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِأَمْرٍ فَأْتُوا مِنْهُ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. When I command you to do something, do it as much as you can. So if you cannot have 100% Sharia compliant, but you can have 90%, well, let it be 90%. If the best thing you can do is to have 70% Sharia compliant investment in the stock market, then 70% actually would be good enough. Having said that, retirement accounts or investment in the stock market could be either individual based or individual retirement account, or otherwise could be a employer based retirement account. Most probably whenever it is a employer retirement account, you do not have that much authority in just picking and choosing what kind of investment you want to have. You just sit with the financial advisor or with the wealth manager of that company, and he or she gives you different options. Here is portfolio number 1, number 2, 3, 4, 5. You just pick and choose, right? You cannot custom design your own portfolio and come up with whatever you want. So the best you can do, best case scenario here, is to investigate what kind of options you are having. Maybe you can run those different portfolios by a specialized individual who does have an access to certain database, who can investigate and scrutinize and find out what kind of financial instruments you have in that portfolio, and then you just make a decision. If you can roll over your retirement account with the 401k, if you work for corporate America or 403b, if you work for non-for-profit or for education institutes, or even a pension plan if you work for the government, like the federal or the state or the county, they give you something called a pension plan. By any chance, if you can roll over your retirement account to any of those socially or ethically responsible mutual fund companies, Muslim-owned ones, I think that would be a good option. They do, know how to run business and how to pick and choose the most Sharia compliant, financial instruments. Of course, they have to be stocks, so no bonds and no derivatives and no futures and no options, right? And those stocks have to belong to companies where their core business is a core one, is a halal one. In addition to that, they will just dig in depth and find out what is called the debt asset ratio, keep it to the minimum, and the interest bearing investment to the minimum, and the actual generated interest has to be to the minimum. Again, those people know their job very well, so the best you can do is to roll over your retirement account to any of those companies, especially if you know the people in charge of that company, especially if you know that that mutual fund company does have Sharia advisory and supervisory board. That's actually the best you can do. Let's say that the best you could ever done is to keep your retirement account, right? Your investment in the stock market, let's say 80% Sharia compliant, and that's the best you can do. Just keep it as is. Do not compromise your retirement account. Just dispose 20% in our example. Dispose of 20% of the profit or the dividend of that account, because that is supposedly is coming from the haram portion of it, and just pay zakah on the rest of the account on an annual basis. And this is actually the best you can do. So if the haram is 30% and halal is 70%, dispose 30% of the profit, not of the value, of the profit of that account, and pay zakah on the remaining 70%, and that is the best you can do. If you commit yourself to do this exercise every single year, inshallah, most probably your investment will be halal enough. There is another, when it comes to retirement account and how Sharia compliant they are, we do have another maybe liberal approach, if you wish, okay? And according to this approach, your retirement account, okay, your employer retirement account, 401k, 403, whatever, is a part of the compensation that you receive from your employer. In the same way that you receive a salary and health insurance and life insurance and paid vacation, you do receive retirement account, right? So based on this, you deserve that money regardless. You deserve that money regardless. According to this approach, that even if you are 100% positive that 100% of your investment is a haram one, it's haram for the one who made the decision and not haram for you. You deserve that money anyway. Of course, we as a fiqh council, we do not go that extreme approach. We disagree with it. But again, I'm just sharing with you this fiqh opinion to show you how much flexibility we have when it comes to investment in the stock market. By any chance, if you can, well, if you are discussing maybe individual retirement account, like for example IRA, Roth IRA, or the regular IRA, or simple investment account, brokerage account, 529 for the education of your kids, AGMA account for your minors, and so on and so forth. Most probably you can pick and choose the stocks or the financial instruments that you want. So you have more jurisdiction, more power, more authority when it comes to individual retirement accounts. If that is the case, then of course, you have to make sure that your investment is as Sharia compliant as possible. Rest assured that there is nothing called halal, 100% halal investment. Every single stock walks in the surface of the earth nowadays does have a certain percentage of haram, because the whole global finance and investment system is a capitalist one, where riba actually is built in. It has some like intrinsic riba component involved in it, right? So our job actually is to make sure that we strive 24/7 to make sure that our investment is as halal as possible. As long as you commit yourself to paying zakah on it every single year, and you find out how much haram involved in it, and you try to keep that haram to the minimum, that's absolutely the best you can do. Let me take some questions and discussion here regarding retirement account, and inshallah we'll move on. تفضل يا أخت. Yeah, that is not a loan to start with. It's called a loan for like tax reduction purpose, because if you borrow, that's tax advantage money, right? You don't have to pay zakah on it. I'm sorry, you don't have to pay tax on it. But in reality, is it a loan? Are you borrowing money? Well, it is your money. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you pay it back with interest to whom? To your account again. You see? So in reality, actually, there is no loan agreement involved here. It just, I mean, your money. You take it. You take it from one pocket and you put it in the other pocket. So borrowing money from your 401k is fine. No. Yeah, we did actually define interest in the part one, like before Isha. Maybe you're not here. No, احنا أخي, we discussed this issue. We said that we have our own definition of interest. Now, whether that definition complies with usury, complies with interest, different from it slightly or significantly, that's completely a different discussion. We go with our own definition, regardless of whether the Western society or the American finance system call it usury or call it interest or call it riba or call it benefit. We do not care, I mean, that much about those technical terms. What we call, yeah, what we care about is the essence and the reality of the deal itself, based on what I explained. عرفت؟ very possible. جزاك الله. تفضل. نعم تفضل. No, that's a good question. هو أخي, it goes the other way around, because the قاعدة here, or the fiqh maxim here, الأصل في المعاملات الإباحة. Default rule in transaction is the permissibility. So the one who claims that 700 today, okay, or spot sale versus 1,000, for example, credit sale is prohibited, is the one who is supposed to bring an evidence for that. Not otherwise, because actually I'm claiming the default, that I mean, as long as we agree on the price, and we are not talking about two different prices for the same commodity, we're just closing on one option. It's either or. It's either 700 cash or 1,000 installment. Now, once we close on one deal, let's say 1,000 installment for 10 years, then it is 1,000. You see, so it's either or. And I can tell you that this phone is for $100 cash, or 120 for 1 year, okay, or 140 for 2 years. I can give you maybe unlimited options. Up to this point, actually, that I mean, that's halal. I do have the right to ask for whatever price I feel more comfortable with. Once we close in one deal, or that this phone is for $120 for 1 year. Once we close, we close. I mean, the price has to be fixed or locked on 120. عرفت؟ Again, as long as there is no third party to finance, then we are on the safe side. Okay, 700 cash versus 1,000 installment. I mean, that would be fine. That's actually called in economy, they call it the opportunity cost. And this is one of the scenarios where the Islamic finance system does acknowledge what is called the time value. Okay, like in this scenario, if the owner of the property has chosen to sell that property 700 cash to somebody else, he would have been able to make $300 extra within 1 year. So he is compromising that opportunity for you. He is giving you that property for 1,000. Okay, in return, you're supposed to compensate him the difference, which is the opportunity cost, they call it. If that makes sense. طب احنا أخي, we need to structure the discussion. I mean we cannot just jump like from one topic to another. So let's take just one question at a time, please. Yes. When it comes to exchanging currency for currency, yes. I mean, they have to be like a spot sale, right? You exchange American dollars for Jordanian dinars, for example. There should be no time gap in between. Later on, okay, there are certain rules when it comes to exchanging what is called usurious commodities, okay, or items. So if you want to exchange, like for example, money for money with different currency, it has to be an immediate, on the spot transaction, right? So forex, for example, if you leverage on it, that's wrong. If you delay the transaction, if you receive the American dollars and you pay the other currency after 7 days, that's wrong. When it comes to currency for currency, it has to be immediate, on the spot sale. Any unintentional delay could be tolerated. Like for example, nowadays when you do forex, okay, like foreign exchange, currency exchange, you live in the USA and the other party is in Australia or China. Okay, it takes from 3 to 5 business days until the actual money is like wired or transferred from China to the USA. Okay, but account to account, it is an immediate transaction. Once you hit submit or agree or purchase or or consent or whatever, the transaction actually is done. But the actual money takes time until it is transferred. عرفت أخي؟ No, if the kinds are different, like food for money, then it doesn't have to be an immediate. I mean, you can take the food and pay for it later on. Or otherwise, maybe you can pay the price ahead of time and wait for the commodity. That's called bay'u salam. Like you purchase something from now, something that's well described, identified. You give a car dealership, for example, $10,000 to buy you or to purchase for you XYZ car, like well identified, right? So you give him $10,000 ahead of time, and he goes and just shopping around. He purchased that car for $9,000, okay, and he makes $1,000 profit difference between the two prices. Now, تفضل. No. Those tools actually are called the different Islamic modes of finance. Different Islamic modes of finance. And actually we have to pick and choose, like certain mode of finance fits a certain project that we have in mind. So we do not have like one size fits all, as they say. For example, bay'u al-murabaha, as you said. Bay'u al-murabaha means cost plus, right? If I want the Islamic bank to construct or to build a house for me or a property for me, right? I cannot go with the murabaha because the building is not existing yet, right? So we have to go something else called istisna, manufacturing sale. Okay. So again, it depends on the nature of the deal itself. If I want to construct, a building from scratch, then I need to go with the istisna one, manufacturing sale, where the bank actually has to buy the materials and contract somebody else to do the construction, work. Okay. And upon like a clear-cut, math and calculation, they find out that the whole building actually cost them $1 million. So they tell me, listen, if we proceed with this deal, we're going to build it for you, and you will be buying it for $1.2 million for 10 years. If everybody agree, then they can proceed. So this is a mode of finance for constructing a property or constructing a building, right? What's that? Well, here is the issue. There is a difference. There is a difference between Islamic finance theory and Islamic finance practice. Now, the fact that we do have deficiency and shortcoming in the practice does not mean that the Islamic like finance theory is bad. It is actually the practice itself. It's exactly like the difference between Islam and Muslims nowadays. And Islam is a wonderful principle and way of life and religion. Muslims, unfortunately, are not wonderful people, right? So it is the same, logic. Islamic finance system is perfect. The application actually might not be, perfect enough. This is one thing. The other thing, actually, is slowing, the process or delaying the process is a kind of deficiency or shortcoming from those so-called Islamic finance companies. They do not know how to run business. They do not have to come up with a competitive model, price-wise, service-wise, like conventional systems. Conventional system has been established, for hundreds of years, right? The Islamic finance one is still like a brand new, I would say, industry comparison to the conventional one. The third issue that we need to have in mind is that the Islamic finance system is to try its best to function and to operate within a non-Islamic finance system, which is a big challenge. There is a severe incompatibility between the principles and the ethics and the practice of Islamic finance versus the traditional finance, right? For example, Islamic mortgage companies in the US who deal in the secondary market, who sell their products or their contracts to in the secondary market to Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, for example. Well, the whole system is a non-Islamic one. Okay, Freddie Mac actually has to make sure that you, as an Islamic mortgage company, you do not own the property. You are not taking any liability, any risk, any responsibility whatsoever. It's just a straightforward interest-bearing loan. Okay, you have a contract for $1 million. You sell it to Freddie Mac for $975,000 cash, and you just move on, right? Now, in the Islamic finance system, you have to prove that you own the property, that you are responsible for the maintenance and the tax and the insurance if you go with the diminution partnership or the declining partnership. So you have to own and be liable, and you have to stay away from ownership. Two opposing practices at the same time. And that's why the default rule of those Islamic mortgage companies is that their practice actually is a non-Sharia compliant one, right? Because of the severe unless otherwise proven, right? Because of the severe incompatibility between Islamic finance and the conventional finance. They are Freddie Mac compliant way more than to be a Sharia compliant one. Because in order for them to sell their contracts to Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, they have to show that we are not taking any liability whatsoever. This is just an interest-bearing loan. Now, they turn around and talk to their community members or like Muslim victims or Muslim customers, telling them, oh, listen, this is a genuine and sound Islamic finance. We own the property, we are responsible. Well, you just told Freddie Mac otherwise. But that is actually the dilemma that we are living here, that we want to incorporate Islamic finance practice in a non-Islamic finance system. It is close to impossible. It is close to impossible. Again, unless otherwise proven. We do have some attempts here or there that are, I would say, Islamically acceptable enough and still sellable in the secondary market. Back to our discussion, Akhi. Every single business has like maybe one or more than mode of finance. Existing house already. Okay, you want to finance a house, then you can go with the Murabaha one, where the Islamic bank is buying the house and claiming all the liability and the responsibility of being the owner, and then selling the property back to you with a higher price. Or they can go with the lease to own, right? They purchase the property and they have to show that they became they call it the landlord. So maintenance, tax, insurance is their responsibility, and you are just a tenant, right? Of course, I mean, this is something that does not happen in the real life. I'm talking about Islamic finance from like a very theoretical perspective. Practice is way different from the theory, and so on and so forth. What is common between all these different modes of finance is the liability, is the risk. Because Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Kharaju bil-Daman. Profit follows liability. So if the bank cannot prove, or the Islamic finance company or institute cannot prove that they are buying or they are taking liability before selling the property, or before financing to their clients, then that mode of finance is not an Islamic one, even if it is called an Islamic one. Unfortunately, I mean, the practice nowadays messed up the whole system, and actually it is really unfortunate to say that the current Islamic finance practice is way non-Islamic one. Okay, far away from the genuine sound Islamic finance practice. No liability, no purchasing, no ownership, no maintenance, no tax, no insurance, nothing whatsoever. They just manipulate the system, just go around it, changing the some terms in the contract, and try to convince you that this is what Islamic finance is all about, which is unfortunately not the case here. Now, تفضل. Wallahi, I'm not 100% sure. I did not study the experience of Dubai in United Arab Emirates, but I have heard that they do have Islamic finance practice, like Islamic banking system and Islamic finance system. In Pakistan, for example, I mean, to my knowledge, the whole finance or banking system is an Islamic one. How serious they are in practicing it, I have no idea. Sudan, for example, they do actually adopt and embrace Islamic finance system, banking and finance system. How serious they are, how good their practice is, I have no idea. I can answer you like within the Islamic finance industry in the United States, but outside, honestly, I'm not that up to date with their practice. Mm. Mm. I see. Okay. Mm. So they call it musharak, but in reality it's just like a straightforward interest-bearing loan. No liability, no maintenance, no tax, no insurance, nothing whatsoever. Well, that's really unfortunate. That's unfortunate. Mm. I see. I see. No. Is well, a simple answer for it actually is no, because if a simple interest is prohibited, then how about the compound one? Well, that is a fatwa that has been issued by Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi rahmatullah alayh, I think 30 years ago, and it has been like adopted by different scholars based on the Hanafi school of thought that involving in any void transaction outside the Muslim world would be a valid one for Muslims. This approach actually from a pure fiqh perspective is a weak one. I mean, it does not stand against the evidences, show clearly that interest is prohibited every time, everywhere. You see? However, this opinion has been adopted by the European Council of Research and Fatwa. They say that yes, I mean, outside the Muslim world, for residential purposes only, if the Islamic alternative is not there, then Muslims can purchase their homes in a very traditional way. We as a fiqh council, as AMJA, with all due respect, I mean, we do not believe that this is a sound opinion. Wallahu a'lam. No. تفضل. Your contribution and the match of your employer. Yeah. We do have a fatwa in AMJA in this very particular point. We said that if mitigating the risk becomes a necessity, like in a certain period of time, right, where the stock market is very unstable, and it is proven, it is obvious that you have to inject some prohibited financial instruments, bonds, derivatives, whatever, to stabilize the investment for a certain period of time, while getting rid and disposing the interest that is coming from those prohibited financial instruments, that would be fine, because of a very simple concept that المحافظة على أصل المال المحافظة على أصل المال من الضرورات. Guarding the investment is a necessity by itself. So if you reach to a conclusion that if I do not inject some haram, like bonds, derivatives, the whole investment might get ruined because of the instability, because of the high risk of keeping the account or the investment stuck, like purely stock only investment. If that is the case, for a certain period of time, as needed only, you can inject certain non-Sharia compliant instruments for a certain period of time, and you have to make sure that you dispose the profit or the interest that's coming from those financial instruments. Once the market is back to normal, is stable enough, then you have to withdraw all these different prohibited financial instruments. Well, but the percentage of those non-Sharia compliant financial instruments, right? So are they 7%, 10% bonds, derivatives, futures, options, 10%? 10%, right? Well, dispose 10% of the profit or the growth or the profit, to be more accurate, the profit of your investment account in the stock market. Okay? Because that 10% is supposedly coming from the 10% non-Sharia compliant financial instrument. Simple as that. Just to keep it simple, yani. How much profit they make? You do not know, right? Well, 20% of the profit of the whole account is to be disposed. The profit only. Well, you just put it in the masjid, give it to needy individuals. I mean, no. Dispose it like whenever you have an access to that account. Yeah, you need to. Yeah, well, even if you do not have an access to it, well, you can pay from from your own pocket on behalf of that, on behalf of that non-Sharia compliant financial instrument, because at the end of the day they belong to you, right? And you have your own dhimma maliyya, you have your own financial stats and financial responsibility. In the same way that you pay zakah like out of pocket on behalf of your 401k, you can dispose of the haram percentage or the haram profit that's coming from that certain percentage of your investment in the stock market. So you don't have to liquidate some of the instruments that you have. You can just keep everything as is and just find out or track, how much is the profit of that haram percentage, or how much is the haram percentage itself. 10%, 20%. Well, get rid of or dispose 20% of the profit of the total account that you have. And that money does not have to be taken physically from the account. They could be taken from other resources that you have, because everything at the end of the day belongs to you. عرفت أخي؟ نعم. طيب, let's go back to sisters here. نعم, تفضل. Let's go one question at a time, if you don't mind. Briefly, when it comes to student loans, okay, there is a kind of uniqueness for this, for this issue, in a sense that sometimes students cannot pursue their higher education without taking student loan. And student loans in the USA, as you know well, some of them are subsidized and some of them are unsubsidized. Subsidized means interest-free loan for a certain period of time, and then you'll be having what is called a grace period. Like after graduation, you still have maybe 6 to 9 months to pay off everything. Now this is the subsidized one, and it is given mostly to undergrad students, and based on financial eligibility, you have to prove your financial eligibility, right? Now the unsubsidized one is an interest-bearing loan from day one, and this one actually does not require any financial qualification. Anyone can apply for it. Our position, our official position as a fiqh council, is that we parents, okay, have to encourage and push, okay, and educate our kids, our college students, on how to go after those halal by default, okay, different sponsorship opportunities for their study, right? We have a lot of grants and a lot of financial aids and scholarships, right? And it's really unfortunate to say that millions of dollars are returned unclaimed to the federal government because students are lazy enough, okay, not to go after that money. Okay. Now, if the halal by default sponsorship opportunities are not there, or they are insufficient, then students can go with the subsidized loan, right? Well, what if the subsidized loan is insufficient, and a certain student reaches to a point where he or she either applies for what do you call it, unsubsidized loan, interest-bearing loan from day one, or otherwise he will be just dropped out of the program or out of the college. Can he take interest-bearing loan for higher education purposes? Our official position is yes. Okay, Borrowing money with interest for higher education purposes is allowed as needed only. Okay? And we interpreted this scenario as a kind of darura, kind of necessity. Not because higher education is a necessity. No, it is not. But that legitimate need, right? That legitimate need cannot be achieved in certain cases without borrowing money with interest. Well, borrowing money with interest becomes a darura, right? It makes no sense whatsoever that people from all over the world come to the USA to get their higher education, and they invest tens, if not even hundreds of thousands of dollars to get masters and PhD, while American Muslims who are living in America are deprived from their higher education because of lacking fund. It makes no sense whatsoever, right? So we have to find a solution. Okay, and again, this is our official position, that borrowing money with interest for higher education, whether it is undergrad or masters or PhD or postdoctorate or MD or law like degree, whatever the level might be, right? If a certain student is unable to pursue that degree without borrowing money with interest, unsubsidized loan, then borrowing money with interest would be allowed for him or her. Clear? Right. Can you give me an example, please? You don't have to offset, akhi, because borrowing money with interest is okay for those who are in need for it. So you are not committing a sin. I mean, this is a kind of rukhsa or dispensation or excuse for you. So you don't have to expiate for that sin by opening schools or by like digging wells or like sponsoring orphans. Of course, I mean, all these like in different acts are very good devotions, but you don't have to set off, as you said, like and do some good deeds like to expiate for the sin, because basically you did not commit a sin to start with. عرفت أخي؟ طيب تفضل يا أخي. Yes, you can give it to a Muslim, you can give it to a non-Muslim, you can put it in the masjid, you can give it to needy individuals. I mean, that would be fine. No. تفضل. Dr. Zakir Naik is a very good da'iyah, and he's very good in interfaith dialogue. When it comes to fiqh and fatwa, I mean, maybe we need to ask somebody else other than him, yeah. With all due respect. Yeah. Salam alaikum. Well, in California, you should start with Amin Housing. Do they operate here in your town? Amin Housing. Amin Housing actually is the best option, especially for residential purposes. If not, then you can go with Guidance Residential. Guidance Residential. Yeah, Guidance Residential, according to AMJA, is more Sharia compliant than others. It's reasonable enough or halal enough if you wish. How about that? That's a new term, right? Halal enough. Yeah. By the way, akhi, Guidance Residential is operating as an investment company, not as a mortgage company. So they do have the right of owning properties. Of course, I mean, their diminishing or declining partnership is not perfect. They have a lot of glitches in the agreement. But overall speaking, in comparison to the traditional mortgage, I mean, there is a huge difference between both, like, conventional mortgage versus Guidance Residential, Sharia compliance-wise. So if Amin Housing is not an option for whatever reason, then you can go with Guidance Residential. No. طيب, that's good for tonight. Are you scratching your head or ask a question? طيب, تفضل. Well, it depends. It depends on the core business of those organizations. If their main job is lending money with interest, then yes, whatever applies to community banks applies to like those intercontinental, organizations. Same. تفضل يا أختي. Except as a gift, as a donation, as well. Well, you can accept because actually the money is prohibited for that individual based on the way, okay, or the reason behind owning that money. But when that money is given from him or her to somebody else, then the haram status is not like extended to the recipient of the money. A very good evidence for that is when the Prophet ﷺ visited with Barira. Barira actually was a slave girl of Aisha radiallahu anha, and she was cooking meat, right? So he asked her to serve him some meat to eat. She said, Ya Rasulullah, innahu min as-sadaqa. This is a kind of donation, providing that Prophet ﷺ does not accept donation because of his very special status. He accepts hadiyah or gift. So she said that I cannot serve you that meat because it is a donation, sadaqa. قال هو لك صدقة ولنا هدية. When you received it, it was sadaqa. But when you serve me that food or that meat, it's not a sadaqa anymore, it is a hadiyah. It is a gift from you to me. You see the point here? So it means that اختلاف الأسباب كاختلاف الأعيان. In a very simple words, that again, if someone is generating money in a haram way, someone works for a conventional bank, someone works for liquor store, that money he or she is making is haram for him, right? But when he gives that money to somebody else, that recipient of the money actually is not taking the sin of receiving the money. You see, we always hold fundraising activities in our masajid. Do we have to ask donors? Where did you get your money from? Okay, are you working for a bank or? We do not. We just ask people to donate, and we take that, that money, because we are not responsible for the source of income or the source of money that people give to other people. Does it make sense? Right. Here is my business card. If it is a fiqh question, please call Amja, the Amja Fatwa hotline. Let me give you the. Yeah, there is a phone number for the Fatwa hotline. Amja Fatwa hotline. It's 916-239-6233. And this is the pledge form for Guidance College if you want to pledge, you want to donate. And this is a credit card machine if you pledged and did not fulfill your pledge yet.